Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of Small Stages, Big Sounds. And today, I'm very pleased to be talking with Henrik from Empyre. So we're going to have a few questions about the upcoming tour and possible new music. So, Henrik, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Dave. Good to be here.
Long time now. It's the 7, 8 years since you first started. And they say that it takes about 10 years to make a success of a band. So you are gigging pretty much constantly now. And I've been watching your socials over the year and watching, oh, they're there. Oh, great for you because it gives you the exposure. And it's also great for the listening public to listen to something different than
I
Ed
hope so.
Sheeran. So, didn't say that. So, what's been the hardest part about that?
One is realizing just how hard. I did not expect it to be as hard as it is. That's not to say that like we struggle with exactly the same battles and issues as any other band would do, and that's only considering just like external factors, nothing to do with the fact that we got four guys in the band who all have other other day jobs. So I think one realization was the fact of generally, whilst now we've got a lot of loyal fans, so them aside, getting attention is very, very hard. No one cares. Getting press attention, you get forgotten about very easily if you're not doing something constantly, and even if you are, you still get forgotten about. Radio, I mean, again, we touched on it. Like, so we're not a Spotify friendly band. We're not
Mm.
necessarily a radio friendly band, and we have had a reasonable amount of press. But keeping all of that moving and trying to say, hey, don't forget about me today, it's very tricky. And then you've got to get on festivals, and you've got to get gigs, and you've got to be able to get people to shows. You've got to be able to do social media. You've got to be able to write songs and record songs whilst you're doing all of these things. You hear every musician talk about it these days. It's just like,
Mm.
how the hell are we going to do all of this? And we don't have a team around us. Like we've got a label, but the label only get involved when we're going to release something. So generally speaking, it's still a DIY
Mm.
operation. It's been a steep learning curve. Put it that way.
Well, like I said, you'll always have me in the area. You know that. Not a problem. And if you like, we can have a chat at the end of the tour to see how it went.
Well, I'm looking forward to the end of the tour. I'm looking forward to being able to have that chat and see how it went. I know that we're going to have, in theory, I know, a really good end to the tour. We've got Bristol sold out,
Mm.
and Nottingham, which is the last night of the tour, is no, 15, 20 tickets away from selling out. So hopefully the last weekend of the tour is gonna sell out. Tickets for most of the other gigs are doing pretty well as well. I'm looking to put Nottingham to bed so that then I can focus on like
Mm.
Newcastle, Sheffield, Cambridge. Cambridge is the biggest venue. We're well in excess of like 100 tickets. I think we could sell up to 350 for that, but that's probably a bit of a stretch. Yeah, Sheffield, Edinburgh. We're looking forward to it, but it's hard to think about that when at the moment we're still focused on. We've got two acoustic dates in London coming up
Mm.
shortly. Again, Friday night sold out, and we are 11 tickets as of today off selling out the Thursday evening. So
Well,
I'm desperate to kind of
that's
sell out.
great on a
Yeah,
Thursday.
exactly. I'm really hoping we can get two sold out nights in London at St Pancras Old Church to do our acoustic performances because, like I was saying before, we've always wanted to do the acoustic stuff. We really like MTV Unplugged, but again, it's what other bands in our scene are doing full electric albums, full acoustic albums that are studio recorded, a live acoustic album, which we brought out live and unplugged last year on CD, and it comes out on the night of our sold out gig in London, not for all the streaming services. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on and more in between that I can't talk about in terms of
Oh, well,
before we can have the.
I wouldn't expect you to release things that you're not ready to, either you or the company. But it's nice to know that these things are still going on and you're not standing still.
No, I mean, I think even during COVID, we just refused to stand still. In COVID, we released the other side. We recorded during the breaks. We recorded the other side. I think we recorded 15 music videos, released 7 singles on an album, and managed to do 3 gigs. It's like we somehow we find a way, but like
Mm.
yeah, that was a struggle in itself, just like every other band. And we were fortunate in that the Black Prince up the road, and we did one at the Waterloo in Blackpool. We managed to do a sit down gig there during COVID. So we were just fortunate in some of the places we could play, could facilitate when the gaps allowed, that sort of stuff.
So, like I said, hopefully things will continue in that ascendancy. But which of the gigs that you performed over the last 5, 6 years stands out for you and why?
There are two that one of them is Steelhouse, which you mentioned the first time we did Steelhouse. I think the bit that sticks out for me is that I remember sound checking before, no, just after Uriah Heep had done their sound check for the headline, the Sunday. And then we did a sound check beforehand and looking at that empty field and the top of the mountain, and it was a bit grey. And we played Waking Light for one of the first times. So we thought, okay, we're going to play the set we want to play, and we want to do Waking Light. And just feeling as if the sun was breaking through at that point, but just feeling as if it was breaking through the clouds, and it was a breakthrough for us because we went back a couple of years later and had another great set. But so Steelhouse 2021 was, I think it was 2021, wasn't it? That was
Yeah.
so that was a big moment for us. And Winter's End, Planet Rock Winter's End, the year before, it was 3 weeks before COVID, before lockdown, the first one, and it was by far the biggest gig we'd done. I think that room took about 750 people. That's before they did it in Wales, Fourth Call. It was when they did it in Poole, and we were in a we were 8, passed out in the middle of the night, mainly down to, I think it was just the sort of like the pressure of the gig the next morning. We were again first on. It was very much like Steelhouse. We were first on, and we'd had a few drinks that night before, but it wasn't anything to do with that. And so I passed out. So everybody's worried about me. I think Grant had some form of infection. I think his back was playing up, and Elliot had an upset stomach. So we were all in a shit state. We were just, and we were thinking, are we actually going to be able to get through this gig without something going seriously wrong? And we stood backstage about 10 minutes. We were going about 12:15, I think, and we looked out about at 12 o'clock, and there's about 5 people at the barrier, and we're thinking, oh man, this is going to be rubbish. Why can't we be on later on that day? And we had a packed out room, and we had a 45-minute merch queue after it. Like, I'd like to think that is legendary. It was an unbelievable response, and it's moments like that in Steelhouse where we try to get across. It's like, you put us on a big stage with a big crowd, and we'll deliver what you need. I mean, you remember Steelhouse
Yeah.
last year? Was it last year when it was chucking it down with rain, which suits us in another way, and there was still a pretty big,
Yeah.
sizable crowd, people standing in their ponchos getting absolutely stoked. But I couldn't have been happier with that set. We, from our perspective, we were like, yeah, that was another goodie, and we look forward to going back there.
Well,
And if it
I
wasn't
hope.
for Planet Rock and Steelhouse, we would not be able to sell out the Patriot 6 months in advance of doing a date there, because it's down to the likes of them, which just proves the point that you give us a stage in the crowd, and then we'll be able to sell out venues around wherever those festivals are.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And it works. I mean, it works on a big. It works fantastically on a big stage, an open field, whether it's sunny or chucking down with rain. And it also works in those 400-500 capacity venues, because the sound is what it is, and it's phenomenal. As I've said before, I'll stop fangirling at some point.
Hopefully, we can make some of those smaller venues feel like an arena, but have that closeness, that intimacy of still being in a venue that's somewhere between 150 to 300 people or so.
This is a bit of a curveball. If Eddie Vedder could sing one of your songs, which one would you recommend?
Well, I've sung enough of his, so it's only polite if he returns the favour. So that is so difficult because I would happily listen to him sing anything that of Empire's catalogue, but probably only Way Out because that's even within the Empire catalogue, it's still a different one to sing in terms of the style. So I'd be interested to see what he did with it compared to what I do with it. But yeah, I think that. But as I said, he could pick anything. I'd be happy to hear him sing it.
Just piano or full electric band?
Or probably the piano version because I think you don't hear much piano-based Pearl Jam stuff, or even of his solo stuff. So yeah, that would be interesting.
There we are. It's a bit of a curveball question.
For all of you out there that know Eddie Vedder, just
Yes,
put in a
just
word.
tip in my direction.
Drop him a DM. He's bound to be on WhatsApp.
So you all got very different personalities. You all look completely different. Does this feed into the band? The way you write?
Well, you mentioned that we look different. I think it was a kind of I think it might have been a review from the Self-Aware album party years ago when somebody described me as the least likely looking frontman for a rock band. I think they described Did looking like I don't know, a chemistry teacher, and Elliot looking like an accountant, or the other way around. Something like that. And Grant was the only one who
And it
actually looks
looked
as
like
if he
a
should
rock
be.
star.
They went on to be quite complimentary about, but it's the kind of stuff that we enjoy. That kind of, yeah, you're more than welcome to take the piss out of us because we are the sort of band that has that very ambitious nature, but the self-deprecating humour. But yeah, to kind of go back to your question, how we actually influence it. My influences are pop and rock, and I don't tend to listen to or write much of the really heavy stuff as much as like Something Remains is actually my rock riff, and Relentless, the single is my rock riff, but I tend to lean more towards some of the softer stuff. And then Did grew up on country and a lot of the rock that we did, but he goes more into some of the punk rock like Green. I can't stand Green Day, but him and Elliot are more that kind of skater rock, punk rock, whatever you want to call it. That those genres. Elliot's very much into country, not perhaps so much into pop, and more into some of the modern rock like Sleep Token or 21 Pilots, and then Grant. But most of his favourite bands are on Kscope. I'd never heard of half those acts before I knew Grant. And then we'd be on the way to a gig and listening to Pineapple Thief and Porcupine Tree or Stephen Wilson. And then it just turns out that we signed with them and it's our favourite band.
Wow. He must have done a good job selling you.
It's pure coincidence, really, but luckily he gave me an insight into that world before. I wouldn't have really known much about Kscope if it hadn't been for Grant initially. But he's also into 80s pop and synthwave. So I think the advantage is that what I might write is something that would maybe write something different, and then we can't write the drum parts that Elliot could write, and then Grant might come up with some prog elements to a bass line that would be just nothing I'd ever think of.
It is. I mean, the stuff you were describing is nothing like the stuff that you write. It's, which shows, as we've said, you fall between the cracks.
Yeah, but we do just write what we like. Somewhere there's generally a middle ground.
So we've had various chats. You've said various things about the struggles of trying to break into the music scene. I mean, getting signed is a big thing. But the fact that the label have a wide variety of artists gives you that freedom, as you said. So is there any other stuff that you think that you would do that would make you much more competitive?
I think it's the stuff we do. If you think of, and we think about it this way, as well as probably other people do, that Self-Aware we're mainly focused on the electric stuff. Self-Aware is album one. Relentless is album 2. We're working on album 3. And then in between that, you've got the other side, which is literally the other side to Self-Aware. It's the acoustic. It's our love for MTV Unplugged. And then we took that a step further by releasing Live and Unplugged last year.
It's all your B-sides, for the want of a better phrase.
Well, it kind of is. And whilst the B-side doesn't really exist so much anymore in terms of we've never done any 7-inches or vinyls. More vinyl is something that we're thinking of.
Yeah.
We try to keep our YouTube channel is not as active as it was, but we try to make sure we've got a video for every single one of our songs in some form or other, and maybe some live performance stuff. So we try to fill gaps with that. We try to make sure that there's always something going on with Empyre, not just a tour or a couple of special acoustic gigs, but there's something going on that people can take an interest in. So again, just differentiating ourselves, because we're full middle-aged straight white guys in a band. We're not playing rock that you can't necessarily put a genre, an actual definition more than it's rock. So we're not really fashionable. We're not down with the kids, but we try to make as much of a noise as we can about us to sort of like to attract and build our fan base.
Well, I'll try from my perspective. Hence this chat, really.
Yeah, thanks.
So, beyond your musical experience, what personal experience has influenced you most profoundly, that has impacted on your songwriting?
I was going to say that not a lot of them are about personal experience, but it's the fact of, goes back to a bit what we were saying before. It varies because so Hit and Run's personal experience. Waking Light is also kind of personal experience because it's about trying to build an empire, say in the last lines of the song.
Yeah.
It's about the struggles. What we're talking about, that is about the struggles of getting people behind you and achieving the goal of what you want to achieve, albeit wrapped up to make it sound as if we're trying to start a revolution. That's that kind of
Not what it is. The revolution is the revolution of your empire.
So,
so it's at times like this where you get a chance to think about where you are and where you've been. And I wonder if that's giving you the opportunity to think about these things.
I think we're often thinking about where we want to get to, and we don't hide the fact that we want to get to be an arena level band. We're not a band which makes it sound as if we want to headline arenas. We don't actually necessarily see ourselves as a headline arena band. What we'd really like to do is go out on tour with a band like Alter Bridge and be a support act, do our 45 minutes and put on the best show we possibly can. And those kind of the opportunities that we're really hoping. That's what the goals of Empyre are basically to play the biggest rock festivals of Europe, get into the arenas somehow, and write the best music that we possibly can, and ideally, hopefully, get out on tour with some bigger acts, because we know that the big festivals, as I said, you put us on a big stage with a big sound, we'll make a big impression. That's how we see it. Anyway, I think it's maybe different people have different goals, but perhaps it's not until that point where you can actually feel like you're not still a small rock band scrabbling around. So maybe if you get to the level of, I don't know, I haven't spoken to the guys out of Those Damn Crows for a while. I haven't seen any of them, but we met so many times on the way up, and now they've kind of made that. I kind of wonder how they feel as if they've kind of they're where, I'm sure they're just as ambitious as we are, want to get even further, but do they feel as if they've got there, or will now achieve what their goals are, as they've done some of the smaller arenas at least, but still arena nevertheless. So all credit to those boys.
I remember doing the sound for them on the back of a truck. They did a flatbed lorry in a local rugby ground, and I was the sound engineer. So that's my claim to fame.
Yeah, and it's not, but how often do we actually look back? But it is stuff like this that makes me think, when you go, what were the gigs that really changed it or what did it look back on, like the cinema, which is something really enjoyed. We did something similar that year with at KK Steel Mill, where we actually would release the album, and 3 weeks after we went and did a live show. KK's have got a 10-meter wide video wall, so again, I got videos together, made the whole set list that almost coordinated, second for second with what we were playing on stage. And those are the sorts of things that we try to do to differentiate ourselves. We'll try and put ourselves in a position where you will see more than you would see from another band of our level if you come to see Empyre, basically.
It's the production. It's about the production as much as the music.
Yeah, the presentation, the production.
Yeah.
And something we're doing for the acoustic gigs, and something we're doing for the tour, is we're not doing meet and greets or any of those sort of things. As far as we're concerned, everybody who comes to our gigs is a VIP. We will make sure that we are at the merch table at the end of the gig. No obligation to buy anything. It's simply the case, if you want to say hi, you want a picture, you want something signed, or you have bought something, and often we give away lyric sheets at our gigs that we will happily sign afterwards. We'll just try and do something more, and we're not going to charge anybody for that experience. You've already bought a ticket, so come and see us, come and say hi, and we're going to try our best to allow for time for those things after any of our headline gigs this year, so that we can do that.
Well, I'll see you at the Louisiana. I might even
That's going to be packed.
Even switch the camera to video. You never know.
Well, don't record the whole set. It's like that kind of stuff makes me nervous, because but you can't stop it these days. That's the thing. You got some bands, but again, we're not going to do that. People bringing in. Ghost did that recently, didn't they? Like, banning phones, and it's like, yes, I get the idea that you want people to be present in the moment and enjoy. And I've been guilty of it before, not with phones, but I remember days of going to watch Guns N' Roses in Milton Keynes Bowl when I was like 14, and I'm looking at the big screen, watching what Slash is playing on the guitar, and I'm like, yeah, but he's there. And turning my head, literally being conscious of going, why am I looking at that when he's there?
Yeah.
But it's just the way of life now. So if people want to film it, as long as they're not annoying the person behind them, whatever.
I was in Bristol last night, and I was taking some images of the band, and there was a bloke in front of me, and every time I had one lined up, he went. He didn't know I was behind him, but every time he just moved just into my shot.
Brilliant.
It happens. So beyond the headline tour, as I said, I'll see you in Bristol. You've got some big gigs this year. Made of Stone, which sort of complements Steelhouse.
Mm-hmm, yes.
It does, because bands play one or the other. They never do both. But the other one I'm looking forward to is Chepstow. I'm going to be there again. So I'll be fangirling from the front.
Chepstow should be good. Because
which of these are you looking forward to most?
Well, I don't like to pick and choose, because there's normally something to look forward to about, like, each one has an individual appeal. Made of Stone for a couple of reasons, but also Chepstow, because that might be the biggest stage, or the big that we get to play. I'm not quite sure like how those two are going to compare, but again, they're both big stages, and we want to play the big. It's great playing if the weather's good, a summer's day on a big stage and an outdoor event. That's a lot of fun. But there's so much to look forward to. The London gigs, which are imminent, 3 weeks away, they're almost sold out. Just sorting out our production and stuff for that. We've talked about the tour, which, our aim is to sell out as many nights of that as possible, and we're damn close to doing 2 of them, so a third of the dates. And so I can't pick anything specifically. There's 1 or 2 more things to be announced, which I'm also looking forward to. And as you said, we're not going to be doing Steelhouse this year, but because we're doing Chepstow, we're doing Made of Stone. Fingers crossed, maybe we'll be back next year. I'll be interested to see if we are, and interested to see where we get put on the billing for that one, knowing that we can sell out of a South Wales venue, or 2, and maybe we'll be back again in Wales in between.
Well,
Wales has been a good friend to us, I must say.
There's a reason for that. We like good music. So, apart from this busy year, and you've already said you're writing new music,
Mm-hmm.
So when do you see that being released potentially?
So I don't know that you'll see an album this year. I think that's perhaps unrealistic. I would hope maybe early next year, because at the moment we're at the stage where we're taking stuff into the practice room. And we did a post on Facebook just past. We were practicing which songs we were doing. We tend to have stupid names for a lot of our songs.
Did
So
notice.
so one was C minor delay riff, and I can't remember what the other one was, because also conscious not to give away what they might actually be called. Not that it makes any difference, but yeah, the fail. Yeah, it was that. I know that one of the songs is probably going to be the longest song we've ever done to date, which means it's in excess of 7 minutes and 3 seconds. It's unlikely you're going to hear any 2.5 minute Empyre songs, but
Why?
because normally we have so many ideas. We normally have like 5 minutes worth of ideas in any song that we want to get in. It's getting progressively hard for us to make harsh edits and stuff and go like, we can't have another 5 minute song. It's hard enough. I'm worried about the tour from the perspective of, on tour, you can expect to hear, this is the aim, at least one new song per night, and it probably won't be the same song at every single gig. We will play something, one or two new songs. That would be the aim. But if you've got a song that is 7 minutes and 48 seconds long, which is likely one of them is, then what do we lose? We might have to cut a homegrown or an only way out or a forget me, but we can't cut those 3 songs.
Yeah.
So what do we drop? There are certain songs that you can pretty much guarantee you're going to hear if you come and see us. And that's going to be the toughest, one of the toughest things this year is to, right, we've got X amount of time. What we're going to play in that time, I don't know the answer to that yet.
That's fair enough. Well, as always, it's been lovely talking to you.
You too.
We're up to an hour now. I'll edit this and add my bits to it. So I may chop this into episode 1 and episode 2.
So you go, yeah, whatever suits best. Yeah, it's fine.
Only because I try to keep it a half an hour.
Yeah, I think that's probably best. Yeah, no one's going to be listening to me for 57 minutes.
Well, and me.
Yeah, I'm only saying about me. They'll be happy to listen to you for 57 minutes.
The students had to when I was a lecturer. But thanks for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'll see you at Bristol. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. See ya.
Bye now.
Bye.